Hello friends, myself Dr. Ganesham Chauhan. Welcome back in the session of Human Anatomy and Physiology 2. So dear students, in this session we are going to discuss regarding the digestive part 2. In this session we will discuss regarding the stomach, which is the vital organ of our body. As we know, and you have also studied this stomach in 12th standard. What is stomach? Stomach is the J-shaped hollow organ, and it is having the shape like curved, and it is connected with the esophagus, and at the bottom it is connected to the duodenum, which is a part of small intestine. This stomach is the inferior part of diaphragm. Now what is diaphragm? Diaphragm is the muscular tissue. It is a skeletal muscle, and it is work between the respiratory system with our lungs, and it separate respiratory system with our digestive system, and it provides space for the lungs for expansion, and it always make pressure or stress to the stomach. So it is connected with the stomach. Now if you will see stomach, whatever the distension is there, it is too much. It is only one organ which is distensible into all the GI tract. What is meaning of distensible? Distensible is nothing but it is the organ which can enlarge, which can expand at any shape. Suppose if you will eat near about 2 chapatis, so its shape will be same. If you will eat more food, so whatever food you will take, it is having capacity of stomach to adjust its shape, to adjust that food. That's why if you will take more food, the same food can be digested in the same stomach, so it can stretch and it can change its shape. Now you should know that how much time we are taking for taking a meal. So we are taking a meal very fastly, within 5 minutes or 10 minutes we are finishing our meal. But do you know how much time it required to digest that food and to absorb that food? It requires almost 10 times more than the time you are taking for your eating. So it's too much time it's taking. And what is the pH of stomach? It is 1.5 to 3.5 pH it requires, and almost 2 to 3 liters of that gastric juice is secreted into your stomach daily. So that much amount of gastric juice can be secreted. And if you see duration, so for duration it depends on your food, what food you are taking. If it is digestible food, it requires less time to stay in your stomach, but it is normally 2 to 4 hours. If your food is having more protein, more fat, it requires almost 4 hours or more than that also. But if your food is having more carbohydrates and digestible fruits or digestible food, so it takes almost 1 hour or also less than that. Now we should know that whatever food we are taking, so it can come into the stomach for its digestion. Digestion starts from your stomach because it secretes various digestible juice. And the duration, so almost from the 30 minutes, whatever food is you have entered into your stomach, after 30 minutes it will start to enter into your duodenum. What is duodenum? It is the first part of our small intestine. There are 3 parts of small intestine: duodenum, jejunum and ileum. Temporary storage area for food and allow it to mix with gastric juice to produce chyme. So what is chyme? In esophagus, in mouth, we have discussed whatever food particle which is semi-solid, it is form one mass, and that mass is called as bolus, that we are swallowing through the process deglutition through our pharynx into our esophagus. Now whatever food it is going to be enter into your stomach, it is called as chyme. It becomes chyme after mixing of gastric juice. It becomes chyme. It is a watery watery mixture of your food and gastric juice. It is called chyme, and in here it is almost digested or partially digested food is there. It is called chyme. And stomach is nothing but it is the mixing machine. It is a mixing machine and acts as a reservoir for food. So whatever food you are taking inside your stomach, it immediately start to propel, start to mix. And as we know already, in last lecture also I have discussed, as during construction, in construction work, we are using that cylindrical metallic element, that having rotating element is there, which contains sand, cement, water and stones. It mixes that and it used for developing the slab, isn't it? So for RCC construction we are using that. So it is just like that, stomach is just like that, it is mixing all the food. As soon as the food is entered into your stomach, it start to mix, it start to move, movement occurs, and due to which continuously that churning movement, that movement is called as churning movement. That churning movement occurs into your stomach. Now, and it is temporary storage, means whatever the chyme is there, the chyme is stored into your stomach, and after 30 minutes it will, that sphincter, pyloric sphincter is there, means from stomach that chyme is going to be enter into your duodenum. And how much quantity is there? Quantity is 3 ml only. After each expulsion, after each ejection, only 3 ml of that chyme, means that food material going to be enter into your duodenum. Now there are 4 regions in our stomach. There are cardiac, fundus, body and pyloric. There are 2 curvatures. It is greater curvature, lesser curvature, that we will see in figure also. There is rugae folds, muscle layers arranged. This is the speciality, this is the oblique. There are, in our muscularis, there are 3 layers. Now in case of esophagus, in small intestine, large intestine, we have already discussed, they are having only 2 layers of muscles. It is circulatory muscles and longitudinal muscles. But here the special type of muscle has been added into the stomach. It is called obliquely muscle. Is obliquely muscle is the innermost muscle, that also we will discuss in the figure. Now here, now the anatomy in stomach, it is having 4 parts that you all see. In that first is cardia. Cardia is the part. It is the entry of the, it is the entry of passage of the food, whatever the food is coming from the esophagus. So it is an entry point, and that part is called as, that entry part is called as cardia. It is a part which is neck, at the neck portion of your stomach, and due to this cardia, it is able to produce the cardiac sphincter. What is sphincter? It is having specialized muscle. They are involuntary muscles are attached here, and they are nothing but the opening gate for our stomach. So when that muscle will contract, the gate will close, and muscle will relax, the gate will open, and whatever the food material which is coming from our esophagus, it will get entered into our stomach. So here cardiac sphincter is there. Why it is called cardiac sphincter? Because it is near cardiac, it is near heart, that's why it is called as cardiac sphincter. Now next part is there, which is opposite to the cardia. It is called fundus. It is the dome shaped part which is called fundus. It is just opposite to this cardiac. It is just curved part, and below this fundus there is the main part of our stomach. It is a central main part of our stomach, that it is called as body. And after body there is the last part of our stomach. It is called as pyloric. Actually this pyloric is divided into 3 parts. One is pyloric antrum. Pyloric antrum is the part which connected to the body. Whatever body part is there, in that body, that material from the body is entering into your antrum. And after antrum, this next is pyloric canal. This is the pyloric canal, and the last is pyloric or pylorus. This is the pylorus. This is the last part. and at this pylorus there is the sphincter of the muscle. So that sphincter is called as pyloric sphincter. So we are having two sphincters in stomach. One is cardiac sphincter and second is pyloric sphincter. And this pyloric sphincter is nothing but the again gate for exit your stomach and entry for the duodenum, small intestine. So whatever the food material chyme, don't tell it food material, it is a chyme, chyme, chyme. That chyme, that watery food material is going to be enter into our duodenum. And how much quantity will enter? Only 3 ml, might well. After each 15 to 25 seconds, means whatever food material get enter into your stomach, okay, after 30 minutes, it start to do gastric emptying. It is called as gastric emptying, and gastric emptying time starts from 30 minutes, and that time will continuously after 15 to 25 seconds. After each 15 to 25 seconds, 3 ml of chyme will poured, expel into the duodenum, and it will continue the process, and remaining will stored into the stomach. Why it will be stored? It will stored for again mixing the various gastric juice, and the digestion will continue here. Whatever the amount of food will stored here for more time, it will be digested. If the food is carbohydrate or it contains fruits or vegetables, digestible food is there, it will immediately pass out from our stomach fastly. And whatever food is there which contains proteins, it require more time, because it require more HCl secretion, and due to which more splitting time will be there for bifurcation and for the mechanical digestion of that food. And if food material contains more and more fat and triglycerides, so it will be get converted into the diglycerides, and it require again more time than protein. So that depends on our type of food. So that's why it starts from 2 hours to 4 hours. If your food is easily digestible, 2 hours, within 2 hours your gastric will be emptying. It is called gastric emptying time, means your stomach will be empty. And if your food contains more fats and more proteins, it requires almost 4 hours. So now we will discuss regarding the curvature. So the medial part of your concave shape middle part is called as laser curvature of our cardiac, of our stomach. And the convex part, lateral convex part of our stomach, it is called as greater curvature. Now here you can see the longitudinal layer is here, the circular layer is also there, and the oblique layer is here. So there are 3 types of layer is there of muscularis. Now again one thing that you should know here, and very important thing, it is called ruga. It is a single, and rugi, it is a plural form. What are the rugi? Rugi are nothing but the folds of the stomach. It is very important part of our stomach. Without that, the churning movement, the mixing machine doesn't work. So mixing work doesn't proceed. So as we have saw in case of brain, there are the folds, it is called salsicary. Like that, here also the folds are there, and they are called as rugi of mucosa. So this rugi part is responsible for movement of the or churning movement of your food which occurs, and it starts as soon as you have taken the food inside your stomach. So within a few minutes, 1 to 2 minutes, this movement of the churning movement of this rugi will start, and it will start to digest your food, start to mix your food, start to mix the gastric juice into your food. So it is called rugi. So in this session we have discussed the anatomy of stomach. So anatomy of stomach can be asked in the examination. Now it is online exam, but if it would offline exam, in that case this question is very IMP. It is always asked in the examination, give a note on stomach or give an account on stomach. So in that you should draw this figure, After that you should tell the anatomy of figure, and also you should explain the histology or macroscopical characters of this stomach. That I will explain today all. Now this is the figure which how actual stomach, how it looks, and here you can see these are the folds, rugae, which is involved into your stomach. When the stomach don't contain any food, in that these folds are distinctly can be identified, and they are compressed one above the another. But when we are the food can be entered here, so it can be stretched, and the size of this stomach can be enlarged. That depends on the food material what you are or how much you are taking. Now this is the macroscopic anatomy or histology of stomach. So in that we will see the macroscopical characters. That in last lecture also we have discussed the macroscopy of these GIT. So in that generally we have discussed, but here we will discuss regarding the special anatomy, macroscopic anatomy of our stomach. So as another part like small intestine, esophagus, almost more or less it is same, only the few peculiarities are there that are different from the other cells. Now we will start from the mucosa. So mucosa contains the 3 layers as we know already, but here epithelium is there. Which epithelium is here? It is having the epithelium of simple squamous epithelium. So this simple squamous epithelium is there. After that, lamina propria. This epithelium cells are responsible for production of gastric pit. The gastric pit, what is gastric pit? It is narrow part and it is opening for the whatever the enzyme which is coming from our internal part, it will come out from this gastric pit. It is the gate opening for whatever the juice, gastric juice, it is coming from our cell. Now next is lamina propria. Now lamina propria is the part where almost maximum numbers of cells are available which releases the gastric juice. The cells which release the gastric juice, it is called lamina propria. And mind it well, in case of gastric or peptic ulcer, the perforations or the ulcer affects your lamina propria part also. That's why it is also affecting on the cells which are available here, and you should know what cells are available in our stomach, especially they are located into our lamina propria region. This region is very important for the secretions of various enzymes. So in case of ulcers, it can be affected, lamina propria layer can be damaged. So here lamina propria is there, which is supplied with the various gastric juice. And the last one is muscularis mucosa, which is of smooth muscles, it contains smooth muscles. And next is submucosa. Now this submucosa again is having submucosa, which is made up of areolar connective tissue. And after submucosa, and this submucosa contains the maximum amount of blood supply as well as lymph supply, and it is also having major function for immunity, this submucosa. After this submucosa, it contains submucosal plexus, as we already discussed, means it contains these lymphatic cells also and the blood vessels also. And the last part, no, not second last part, it is called muscularis. This muscularis contains 3 layers. In other cells we have discussed, in case of small intestine, large intestine, esophagus, there are only 2 layers. One is circular layer and longitudinal layer. But in case of our stomach, we are having another special layer, it is called oblique layer. And this oblique layer at the middle part, and after that circular and the longitudinal layer. And after this, the last layer of our stomach is called serosa. This serosa is made up of epithelial cells, simple epithelial cells and areolar connective tissue. and this serosa is also responsible for made up of serous membrane, which we are using in the peritoneum cavity or peritoneum. For production of peritoneum cells, the serosa is having great role because it contains the serous membrane, it produces serous membrane. Now we'll switch over to this part only. So this is the part of mucosa. In mucosa, especially this lamina propria. Now in this lamina propria, it produces the gastric glands. So this gastric glands is the part which releases various enzymes. Now here there are two types of enzymes. One is exocrine enzyme and another is endocrine enzymes. Now in case of exocrine the enzymes, there are three types of cells are available. Now in that, first is parietal cell. This parietal cell, it is available here. The parietal cell is having great role into the stomach. It secretes the major element of stomach, which is called as HCl, hydrochloric acid. It secretes hydrochloric acid, and as we know, hydrochloric acid is required for the splitting, for digestion of proteins, carbohydrates and lipids. For lipids it require more, for lipids and proteins it require more. It do the breakdown of the peptide chain, it break down the amino acids. So that's why this parietal cell, it secretes the HCl, and parietal cell also secretes intrinsic factor. Don't forget, parietal cell secretes not only HCl but also it secretes the intrinsic factor. So in MCQ also, in examination also, if question will be asked what parietal cell secretes, so it secretes two elements. If you will give answer only HCl, it will be wrong. It secretes intrinsic factor also. What is intrinsic factor? Intrinsic factor is the element which require the absorption of vitamin B12. What is vitamin B12? It is the element which require for the hemopoiesis, which require for the production of RBC. Vitamin B12 absorption, intrinsic factor, don't forget. Okay, so parietal cell, and it is also having the another cell, it is called as chief cell. Now this chief cell also secretes pepsin. It is a proteolytic enzyme. It is the only enzyme which require for the breakdown of protein into our stomach. It break the protein along with this HCl, and also it secretes the gastric lipase. What is gastric lipase? It is an enzyme which digests or which lyses the lipids, triglycerides, cholesterol. It breaks down the chain of triglycerides and turn it into the diglycerides and again into the smaller pieces. So chief cells. Don't forget which cell secretes which enzymes. There are three exocrine enzymes. Now third is called mucous neck cell. That mucous neck cell secrete the this one. It secrete the mucus, and that as you know, mucus is required for the moistening and for also digesting the various elements of our food. Now after that, there is one enteroendocrine cell. It is called enteroendocrine cell, and that cell secrete the one element. It is called gastrin. Here it is called gastrin. So, and what is the role of gastrin? Gastrin is required for the secretion of HCl, pepsin and also other elements. Means it controls the secretion of HCl and pepsin and that gastric lipase. It controls that. So it is the endocrine hormones which secreted into our stomach. It's also secreted into our blood, and through blood it carries all over the body. These endocrine cells also secrete the histamine, serotonin, gastrin, endorphins and somatostatin. As you know, histamine is also called as autocoids, serotonin also autocoid, also called as 5-HT, gastrin we have discussed, endorphins, they are also the peptides, neuropeptides, and somatostatin. What is somatostatin? Somatostatin is nothing but the inhibitory hormone, and as statin is the word, don't confuse between somatotropin and somatostatin. What is somatostatin means? To pause or to stop. So what it is doing? It is having the inhibitory action. It decreases the secretion of HCl and pepsin and gastric lipase. So in this fashion, somatostatin is there. It is having inhibitory action. In our gastric, there are two types of actions: excitatory and inhibitory. So there are also controlling centers, because everywhere our body we are having homeostasis. One element is increasing and one element is decreasing, means they are balancing their secretions. There is one condition, it is called achlorhydria. What is achlorhydria? When there is loss of HCl, when there is loss of HCl into your stomach, that condition is called as achlorhydria. That's why we have to give HCl externally when you are ingesting food. At the same time we have to ingest HCl also. Dilute HCl we have to take. Only that you can digest that food. Otherwise it is just impossible to digest the food. So it is called achlorhydria. And in acidity, the acid secretion has been increased. Okay, so that's why we have to take the food which going to release less acid. For example, carbohydrates, which is going to release less acids into our stomach. Now as we know, the histamine is there. Histamine activates parietal cell to release the HCl. So that's why we are working on, or we are taking the drugs which are working on the H2 receptor. Actually H2 receptor is specially involved into the activation of histamine, and that H2 receptor is related with the secretion of HCl from parietal cell, not H1, only H2. If you are taking H2 blocker, it will decrease the acid HCl from our stomach. For example, cimetidine or ranitidine, the other drugs. Serotonin, it is the next one. It conducts the stomach muscle. It is doing the contraction of stomach muscle. Gastrin, as I have already discussed, gastrin is increase the secretion of HCl and pepsin. Endorphin, it is a natural opiates. Next, somatostatin, it is sympathetic nervous system. It inhibits the gastric secretion. It inhibits the gastric emptying as well. Means it increases the gastric time, which is, if gastric time will, try to understand, if gastric time will increase, definitely it will increase the time of digestion. So indigestion will develop if gastric emptying will be decreases. That's why gastric emptying should be increased. Now digestive process in the stomach. So there are various digestive process that you should know. In that, first is gastric secretions, that cephalic phase. It is stimulated by through the slight taste or aroma or food. These are the phase when we are having some sight, or if you are taking if you are having any smell, so due to which also some smell of some food, automatically, suppose pickle, as I told, pickle, immediately secretion of HCl, secretion of the enzymes from your stomach has been occur through your mouth as well as through stomach. Immediately you will increase your diet, so HCl secretion can be increased. So like there are some taste or some aroma, due to some aroma of some food also our secretion can be increased. Next, input from olfactory receptors and taste buds travel to the parasympathetic enteric ganglia, which then stimulate the stomach glands. That's why in some food culture the people are having habit to take the soup before meal. Why soup? Because soup works as an appetizer. What is appetizer? Which increases the appetite, which increases the what you can say, feeling of hunger. They will increase your feeling of hunger, due to which you will eat more food. It will increase the secretion of HCl into your stomach. Gastric phase. Stomach distension activates stretch receptor. So whenever our food can be entered into your stomach, so they will activate the stretch receptor, and due to which distension means the stomach will be elongated, it will expand its shape. And whatever food you are taken, suppose if you are taken too much food, suppose if you go to visit any marriage function and you are taken too much food, that all food you like too much and you are taken too much food, so whatever food you are taken, it can be adjusted into your stomach due to the distension property of stomach. So it can be occur to your stretch receptor. So food chemicals like peptides, rising pH activate the chemoreceptors, which activates G cells which secrete the gastrin. So there are G cells are there into our stomach which secrete the gastrin. These are the endocrine cell, G cells. Intestinal phase, presence of low pH and partially digested food in duodenum stimulates intestinal gastric secretions. So due to the low pH, whatever the partially digested food is there into the duodenum, which stimulates the intestinal gastric secretions, and due to which the whatever the food is there which is in your stomach, it will try to digest more fastly, because already lots of enzymes are there for in your stomach which will secrete, and it will increase the rate of digestion. Now here we will discuss the mechanical and chemical digestion of the food into the stomach. Now first of all, mechanical, as you already know, the ruga are there, rugi is there, so there are lots of folds are there. These folds are responsible for churning movement. So whatever food has been enter into your stomach, immediately within a few minutes, the fold will start to churn the food into your stomach, and they will rotate. It is mixing of food will start immediately, and after that there is release of various chemicals into your stomach will start. For example, HCl will be secreted from this parietal cell. After that, pepsin will secrete the whatever the HCl will be secreted, that depends on the various elements like the histamine. It also depends on the parasympathetic nervous system. It also controls the secretion of HCl. After that, acetylcholine, it will increase the secretion of HCl. So like that, various elements are there, they will control the secretion of HCl. And another elements like pepsin also depends on the secretion of HCl. In acidic pH, more pepsin will be secreted. Also it can be controlled by the gastrin, we already discussed. And the another elements, they are also secreting, like mucus also secreting, and these all elements are mixing the food mechanically, mixing the foods. They are producing the chyme, and they are making available for chemical digestion. Now this in chemical digestion, actually what happens, that concept you should know. We are here to understand the concepts. Now here what happens, how HCl can be secreted into your stomach, that we are discussing here. So that depends on the one pump, it is called as proton pump. So that proton pump depends on the enzyme, it is called hydrogen potassium ATPase. Which enzyme? Hydrogen potassium ATPase. And where this process is happening, it is happening into our stomach. Okay, now what is this? This is the lumen. What is lumen? It is the internal hollow part of our stomach, it is called lumen, and this is the layer of our stomach. This is the internal part, and this is the internal part, and this is the lumen part. And the lumen parts means here food material is here, and here the blood stream is here, blood vessels are attached. Okay, and this part where it is attached to the food material, this part is called as apical membrane, and where it is attached to the blood vessels, it is called as basolateral membrane. Basolateral membrane, apical membrane, which is attached to the lumen, to the food. At the food side, this is the mucosa part. Okay, mucosa parts. Okay, and this is the lamina propria, this is the epithelial cell. Okay, this is the simple epithelial cell, simple columnar epithelial cell. This is the lamina propria where the secretion will be there. Now this is the enzyme. Which enzyme? It is called sodium, it is called potassium hydrogen ATPase enzyme. So due to which enzyme, what happens? It activates the pump, and when pump will activate, the ATP can be get converted into the ADP. ATP can be consumed, it will convert into the ADP. Adeno triphosphate will be get converted into the adeno diphosphate. Whatever the process occurs in our body, for the process ATP is there, ATP molecule is required, for energy is required. So energy in the form of ATP. Mitochondria contains lots of ATP, it is a storehouse of ATP, it is storehouse of power. Okay, so power is required, ATP is required. Now after that what happens? So whatever, now here the exchange of ions will occur. So whatever the potassium is there, it can be exchanged with the sodium. So the sodium will get this potassium will get inside, and this H plus ion, this proton will go outside. Okay, now from where you got this proton? Now again in this parietal cell there is lots of carbonic acid is there, and as we know, carbonic acid can be formed with H2O and CO2. H2O and CO2 combined, they will form carbonic acid. So lots of carbonic acid has been formed into our parietal cell. Now when this carbonic acid is going to be dissociate, when the dissociation will occur, what will happen? It will produce proton. This is the target point which we require, right? This proton will produce plus bicarbonates. Okay, so this proton can be diffused here, and it will come here at this proton pump. This is the pump. Try to understand what I am telling, it is very important for you for understanding. So whatever the H plus is, it will come here for exchange. With what it will exchange? It will exchange with potassium ions, which is in the lumen, and it will release into the lumen. Okay, now here, and whatever the bicarbonate ions are there that remain here, what will happen? It will go into your blood stream. Okay, it will be consumed into your blood, and what will happen? It will be exchanged. Again there is second antiporter is there, this called as transporters. There are symporters and symporters and antiporters. So this is called antiporters. What is antiporters? When one ion is coming and one ion is going, when two ions are moving in opposite direction, it is called as antiporter. So here the bicarbonate ions are going toward the blood stream, and it can be exchanged with the chloride ions. Okay, so chloride ions will get inside your parietal cell. This is a parietal cell, and where it occurs? It occurs at the basolateral membrane. This is the basolateral membrane of lamina propria cell. So here it occurs, and the bicarbonates will go inside into your blood. So that's why, due to which in blood more bicarbonates ion will be present, and it will leads into the alkaline tide, means more alkaline. It is called as alkaline tide. Alkaline tide, TIDE, alkaline tide, and due to which more alkali can be produced into your blood, and due to which our urine will become more alkaline. Urine will become more alkaline because it contains more bicarbonates. Now here, whatever the chloride ions which has been exchanged with bicarbonates, they will come into the picture here, and they will release into the lumen. Understood? From where this chloride ions comes, so from here chloride ions comes, and they will release from this apical membrane through this parietal cell, through this epithelial cell, simple epithelial cell. They will release into the lumen, into the food material simply, and when this chloride ions will combine with this H plus ion. From where you got H plus ion, it will exchange with potassium ions. Potassium ion go in, H plus ion come out. So when H plus will combine with Cl and it will form HCl. So in this fashion the HCl has been formed from the parietal cell, and this HCl is required for the various functions, various work into our stomach. In stomach the HCl is required for the chemical digestion of our food. Chemical digestion, HCl is very required. So don't forget, these are the various elements which are available here. Proton pump, that's why we are taking the drugs which are working at proton pump. For example, pantoprazole or rabeprazole or omeprazole, they are working here. They are working on proton pump. They are inhibiting this proton pump. That's why they are decreasing the formation of HCl into our stomach, due to which acidity doesn't occurs. Okay, so in this fashion we have discussed mechanical chemical digestion into the stomach. Now this is the summary of digestive processes which occurs into the stomach. So as we already discussed, the cephalic phase, where through vision or through the thought also the secretion of HCl may occurs through cerebral cortex. After that, stimulation of taste or smell, if you are tasting pickle or if you are tasting soup, so due to which also, or any smell, if you are having smell of any good food which is cooking in the kitchen, so due to that smell also our HCl can be secreted through this vagus nerve. After that, gastric phase, stomach distension activates stress receptors, and due to which also the HCl will be secreted. Food, chemicals, peptides, caffeine, they will activate the G cell to secrete gastrin, and as we know, gastrin is responsible for secretion of HCl as well as pepsin. Intestinal phase, presence of low pH, partially digested foods in the duodenum when stomach begins to empty. So when the partially digested food is there in your duodenum, so it will also give rise for the secretion of HCl into your stomach. So in this fashion it will be released into your stomach. Now these are the inhibitory effects. Now here all are regarding the secretion of HCl. Here these all are regarding the inhibition of HCl. How HCl can be controlled, because in our body everything is controlled. All things should be under control. HCl also, if it is more, it will produce the acidity. If it is less, it will produce the achlorohydria. That's why it should be normal in their level. So how it can be controlled? By loss of appetite, depression, so cerebral cortex, and due to which HCl can be decreased. Next, excessive acidity in stomach. So immediately the G cell will give that information to the brain, and immediately gastrin secretion decrease the HCl. Again, emotional upset. If you are emotionally upset, if you are in stressful conditions, due to the sympathetic nervous system so overrides and parasympathetic controls, and due to which it decreases the secretion of HCl. As we know, parasympathetic nervous system that means acetylcholine is responsible for secretion of HCl, and here it is vice versa. Sympathetic nervous system means that noradrenaline is responsible for decrease of HCl, and here distension of duodenal presence, fatty, acidic, this hypertonic chyme and instant duodenal. So it is also for local, vagal and pyloric sphincter. So it is responsible for decreased secretion of HCl. And distension presence, fatty, acidic, partially digested food in the duodenum, and release of hormones secreting gastrin, inhibitory peptides, cholecystokinin, vasoactive intestinal. So these all are responsible for inhibition. So in this fashion the control or homeostasis can be maintained into your stomach. Now here, how this gastric motility and gastric emptying can occur, that we can see here by this figure. So here this is the pyloric sphincter from where the gastric emptying will occur, and how it occurs? When this sphincter will loose. Now here it has been contracted, it is closed. Now here it will start to open, and here it is open, and due to this loose sphincter, the food material from the, or it is called chyme, that chyme will come out from this stomach. The peristaltic wave approaches stomach and becomes stronger near the pyloric sphincter. So as soon as you have taken the food, immediately the peristaltic waves will start, the motility will start into the stomach through rouges. That rugi will do their movements, peristaltic movements, waves will develop into your stomach. Sound will be there into your stomach immediately. The pyloric sphincter allows 3 ml of chyme in each release after 15 to 25 seconds of your gastric emptying. Only 3 ml of chyme will be released into your duodenum, and rest to return to the stomach for further mixing, and further digestion process will continue into your stomach. Now here it is the last part of our today's presentation. It is called DCS. So what DCS that we will come across in this? That first is pylorospasm. What is pylorospasm? Mostly it occurs in the infants. Pylorospasm is nothing but that pyloric sphincter, which is just before duodenum, that pyloric sphincter, it not allowed to loose, it doesn't opens, spasm is developed, that is it is called spasm, and due to which, due to whatever the food material is there, it don't go into the duodenum, or it require too much time to go. Due to which our stomach is always full of food, always food material is filled into our stomach, and due to which the vomiting continue, emesis will occur in infants, and that is a problem, and due to which we had to give the drug for releasing that pyloric sphincter, to release the spasm. It should be relaxed. After that, contract, continued relaxation and contraction should be there. So it is called pylorospasm. Now next condition is called as pyloric stenosis. What is this stenosis? Stenosis is nothing but the narrowing of our pyloric sphincter. Narrowing occurs. Due to the narrowing, whatever food material is there, it should go into the duodenum. It don't go. It go very slowly. So it requires too much time to pass into the duodenum. So it increases the gastric emptying time, and due to which also continue vomiting occurs into the infants and into the childs, and it leads, and it requires the surgery. In case of stenosis, by surgical methods we can remove that stenosis, we can enlarge that part, because it is the permanent problem has been occurred into the in these conditions. Now next is gastric ulcer. It is also called as peptic ulcer. In this peptic ulcer, what happens? Due to the bacteria, due to the H. pylori, or due to the intake of antibiotics, it erode the lining of our mucosa, our epithelial cells, our simple columnar epithelial cells is going to be eroded, ruptured of mucosa will occur, and it will expose the blood vessels, due to which blood will come outside. Also it will invade our lamina propria, and due to which it will affects on the release of enzymes, and in this condition it may lead into the indigestion, because due to which it affects the secretion of HCl and pepsin also, due to which indigestion also will occur. So in that condition we have to take the drug, take the any drug like NSAID or other drugs very cautiously. Also antibiotics like cephalosporins, especially amoxicillin is the one of the drug which is responsible for production of this gastric ulcer or peptic ulcer. And also one thing I should tell you regarding the food, that whatever food we are taking inside our stomach, okay, after 30 minutes it will start to open the pyloric sphincter, and whatever the food content is there, that food content will mix with the HCl, after that pepsin, after that mucus, after that gastrin, and it will mix, and after that it digest and release. Now suppose if you are taking more water with that food, or during meal if you are taking the water, what will happen? It will increase the bulk of the food, it will increase the chyme, and for more water, more HCl will be secreted, and due to which what will happen, it will require too much time for release that chyme, and also more acid will be secreted. If more acid will be secreted, it will also affect on the mucosa of our stomach. So that's why my one personal suggestion to all that, don't take more water, or don't take water during meal as well as after the meal. Let it finish the 1 hour. After 1 hour you have to take the water. Otherwise what will happen, it will affect on gastric emptying, and also more secretion of HCl will be there to maintain the pH, because what pH you have to maintain, 1.5 to 3.5 pH you have to maintain. So for maintenance of that pH, more HCl will be secreted. So don't take water between your meal. After 1 hour you can take. It will start to release. After 30 minutes it will start to open, gastric emptying will start. After is 15 or 20 seconds, 3 ml of that chyme will enter into your duodenum. Now next is gastritis. What is gastritis? It is the inflammation of our gastric mucosa, stomach mucosa. Inflammation will occur, and due to that inflammation, our layer of that stomach won't work properly, and due to which the inflammation, the whatever food intake you are taking inside, lots of pain is there inside your stomach, and though you are taking less food, it will immediately try to empty into the duodenum. So proper digestion won't occur due to this. So it is also one of the other condition, gastritis. After gastritis, it will get converted into the peptic ulcer or gastric ulcer. Next, gastroenteritis. Same like the H. pylori, like bacteria or any other drugs, antibiotics, they will continue use of antibiotics, or if you are taking more spicy food, if you are taking more and more proteinous food, so it will get converted, that bacteria and other elements get converted into the inflammation of our lining, mucosa lining of our gastric, means stomach, as well as small intestine. It is collectively called as gastroenteritis. Inflammation occurs. Next is GERD. It is nothing but the gastroesophageal reflux disease. Reflux occurs, and there is involvement of esophagus as well as stomach. What happens in this case? When food material comes from the esophagus, it will get entered into our stomach. Now, due to the esophageal sphincter, problem into the esophageal sphincter, it doesn't close properly, it loosely close, or it is relaxed. Due to its relaxed, whatever food material, food content which is inside the stomach, it come back flow is there toward the esophagus, and through esophagus is comes into the mouth. So that reflux, that it is called reflux, that backflow condition or reaction is called as reflux. So that reflux occurs into your mouth, so that's why it is called as gastroesophageal reflux disease. And due to that reflux, lots of hard burning pain occurs. You are thinking that we are having heart problem or hypertension is there, and burning sensation is there, too much burning is there. So it is also one of the condition when you are taking more food intake than normal, or more spicy food, or more non-veg you are taking, so in that condition also it will develop. It is called GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. So my dear students, in this fashion we have come across with the stomach. So in the next lecture we will see the another part of the digestive system. So thanks a lot for hearing me. Bye.